y'all, and welcome back to another new video. So I'm continuing on with my series on the 3 Black sisters. If you haven't seen the video I did on Bellatrix a few days ago, definitely go check that out. But today I'm going to be talking about Narcissa. And so definitely don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and hit the subscribe button. Check out the description box for all my other social medias, and without further ado, we can jump right in. So Narcissa is the youngest daughter of Cygnus and Joella Black, and she was born in 1955. And like all her sisters, she was raised to believe in pure blood supremacy, and she definitely subscribed to it. She wasn't quite as fanatical as Bellatrix was, but she definitely was a pure blood supremacist. And she shows this by cutting off Andromeda too when she marries Ted Tonks, as well as other things. But she starts Hogwarts in 1966 and is sorted into Slytherin House. And sometime during her schooling is when she meets Lucius, and they fall in love. And the two of them get married sometime in the 70s after they graduate from Hogwarts. And I would definitely say that they did love each other. Not that they were like a happy, healthy couple, but I would say that they did care for each other much more, at least, than Bellatrix and Rodolphus did. And so she continues to live a very privileged life because Lucius was also incredibly rich. And so she lives in Malfoy Manor, which is like obviously a huge mansion. And she was never a Death Eater herself, but she was very involved in it all and definitely did believe in what they believed in. And she has one son, Draco, obviously, sticking with the theme of naming people in that family line after like stars and space stuff. And during the First Wizarding War, much of her family was killed or imprisoned afterwards. But her husband was able to avoid Azkaban by claiming to have been under the Imperious Curse. And so they were able to remain members of the social elite, having close social ties to political leaders, but behind closed doors in private, they still did believe in the purification of the wizarding race. They raised Draco to share these beliefs, but they told him that he should keep it a secret because that it wasn't socially acceptable. Though I don't know how good of a job he did. And when it came time for Draco to start Hogwarts, Lucius wanted to send him to Durmstrang because they didn't allow in Muggleborns, and they did teach the dark arts, but Narcissa insisted that he go to Hogwarts so that he was closer to home. And she was a very dedicated mother. His first year there, she would send him mail every day, sending him like little care packages every single day. So, I mean, my mom is like a helicopter mom, not in a bad way, but like even she probably wouldn't have sent me something every single day. And so we don't really see her too much in the beginning of the series. We see her in 1994 when she sits in Fudge's luxury box with her family at the Quidditch World Cup. And then again, we see her in 1996. And Narcissa was actually the one who told Voldemort what he would need to do to kind of coax Harry to the Ministry of Magic for that battle at the Department of Mysteries, because Kreacher had told Narcissa about basically Harry and Sirius's close relationship. So it was Narcissa's idea to use Sirius as bait. But this ended up sort of backfiring against her because her husband ends up in Azkaban after this, and so now they lose their social standing in the Wizarding Society because they realize that Lucius is a Death Eater, but they also fall from grace with Voldemort too. They used to be like very up in his inner circle, and now he's really not okay, like he's mad at them because Lucius was supposed to be the leader of this mission to go get the prophecy, and he failed. So they really fall out of standing just like in every area of life. And so this is when Voldemort picks, quote-unquote, Draco. And basically, he was setting Draco up to fail. He really was banking on Draco failing, basically so he would have an excuse to kill him to get back at them. And Narcissa, she was no idiot. She knew this. And so this is why she goes to Snape asking for help, saying, you know, he's literally setting Draco up for a suicide mission. You have to help us. And so Snape agrees to help and to protect Draco. And later that summer, she takes Draco school shopping, and she runs into Harry and his friends, like Hermione and Ron. And they get into a verbal disagreement, and she mocks Sirius's death. Sometimes I see people on TikTok saying that Narcissa was like a really great person and just a dedicated mother and wife, which, ew, like if that's your idea of being like a good woman, I don't know, we probably won't get along. But also, no, she was not some like passive bystander in all of this. I don't think she was as crazy as Bellatrix or maybe even Lucius, but I definitely do not think she was like a heavenly angel. And this is evidence of that she was literally mocked Sirius's death. So, okay. So then in 1997, her home was turned into Death Eater headquarters, and she was not happy about this. And despite claiming to be honored by Voldemort staying there, she was super uncomfortable with it. And Voldemort would often ridicule them. And at that fight that took place in her house, Narcissa did recognize Hermione, and despite Draco claiming not to know who Harry was, so she kind of kept that under wraps that Draco had lied to Voldemort, because I'm sure that would have gotten him who knows what would have happened to Draco if she'd admitted that she knew that Draco was lying. And she also argued with Bellatrix over who should have authority in her home, because Bellatrix kind of took that situation over, even though it was all happening in Narcissa's house and the prisoners were in Narcissa's dungeon, etc. And she was also kind of shocked that Dobby would so openly like disobey his old masters, but like whatever. And since Harry had taken Draco's wand, Narcissa gives Draco her own, so like she definitely was like a dedicated mom, but I don't know if that's necessarily like always a good thing. Well, it is a good thing, but maybe not a dedicated wife in this scenario was kind of a bad thing to be. But I also understand like what other choice did she really have. So like I get that it's complicated, but I don't understand why some people like say she was like a really good person actually. So she gives Draco her own wand, so now neither her or Lucius have wands. And you know, so fast forward, and Narcissa was also there when Voldemort kills all the goblins for finding out that something had been stolen from his vault, that a Horcrux had been stolen. She was there for that. And then the next time we see her is in the forest when Voldemort kills Harry. And so she's the one that has to go and check, and she lies to Voldemort saying that Harry is dead. And she basically does this because she wants to get back to the castle, since she knows that Draco is alive and there's still a chance of saving him. She knows that the only way they'll get back to the castle is if this ends and they can go back to the castle instead of be out there in the forest anymore. And so by lying to Voldemort, she shows that she cares more about her son than this like whole process of getting Harry killed. Which for me at least was a moment that made her like not so black and white. Like it definitely didn't make her like a great person in my books, but definitely a little bit better. And so when they get back to the castle, they break away from the fighting and they immediately are just searching all over for Draco. And when everything ends, so she's there she witnesses Bellatrix die, she witnesses Voldemort die, and then in the movie they have them leave. And they actually played around with like several different options for the Malfoy family at the end, none of which happened, but they do make them leave, which in the book though they don't leave, and they're seen reuniting with Draco in the Great Hall after everything's done. And this is sort of like described as being like uncomfortable because like they kind of just been on the wrong side. But either way, because at the very end they did defect, this is why like they evaded Azkaban yet again. Which like personally, I don't know if Lucius like deserved to be let off for everything. And one thing I do have to say though is in The Cursed Child, which like I mentioned in my last video, I count as canon because the author of the series counts it as canon. As much as I don't like the author, I still feel like what she says goes on this kind of thing. And in The Cursed Child, we see that Narcissa is very disapproving of Draco. And also, even if you don't count The Cursed Child as canon, in Draco's like life story that was written for the Wizarding World website, they also mention this. So we see that Narcissa is very disapproving of how Draco and Astoria choose to raise Scorpius to be an accepting, tolerant individual, how the two of them have moved on from having pure blood supremacy beliefs. And so the fact that she disapproves of this shows that they didn't really have some grand awakening after all of this, that they've been wrong all along. So that's kind of one reason that I don't think they're fully great people. I think they did the right thing in the end, but they obviously still hold ridiculous beliefs. And yeah, so that's basically it. So she's still alive and just being a grandma that kind of doesn't like her own kid anymore, even though she loved him so much that she was willing to risk her life for him. But then when he decides to have a different path, she's going to disapprove of that. So I think that kind of shows how stuck in her ways she really is. But I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you know you have an opinion that's different than mine, that is totally okay. Please don't be like super mean about it though, because in one of my TikToks I mentioned this and people were so mad. It's just my opinion and you are so free to have your own. And so yes, if you did like it, give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what videos you want to see in the future, and until next time, bye y'all.